everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 287, Office Move. I tried to make it sound really exciting because I am moving offices after 24 hours, 24 years in the same office. I've been at the same institution for my career, and yeah, we're moving to a new spot. So one of the things I started thinking about when I found out we were moving is, oh my, because there's a lot of stuff in that office. And I know many academics move all the time. You might change jobs, every couple of years. You might move from one spot in a building to another spot. You might, change departments, depending on what happens. We generally do move. So it's pretty unlikely that someone stays in the same office for 24 years, but here we are. So one of the things that I started thinking about is that it is really overwhelming because there is a lot of stuff in my office. I've hidden everything in my office from like Christmas presents for my children to just random things that I need to put somewhere. So for example, we had a couple of spare extra computer monitors. They didn't belong to the university, but I didn't want them at home. And I had this closet in my office. So I was like, oh, I'll just put them in there. And just over the years, there's all kinds of things. I know I just opened the closet the other day and I saw a plastic tub that I used to use when my children were sick, where I had crayons and coloring books and shapes to trace and things like that. I think even a Barbie or two, maybe, I'm not sure, but everything was in this tub. And then if I ever had to possibly, take a kid home from daycare or whatever, where they weren't really sick, I sometimes would bring them to work with me. So yeah, I mean, one of the things I think is really important to think about then when we're in an office move is that not everything in the office is something that either has to be moved or actually is office type work. So those are just some examples. So what I came up with, and for those of you on YouTube, I did type them out because I want to make sure that I remember them and they are in Penzu, but I made myself some office moving rules just in general. I don't know when I will have to be out of my office. And right now, this is in mid-July of 2026. I heard that we're going to be out by the end of the semester, so sometime in December of 2026, but I don't know when that day is going to be. So with all the stuff I've got in there right now, it's still summer. I have some time that I could do some organizing at least. So what I came up with is that it's going to take me a long time to clean this office out. And I think in the summer, I've got to give it at least 3 to 5 hours a week. I think I need to, do some packing. I need to throw out potentially some trash. I need to recycle things. One thing I found right away is I have several cords for old computers over the years. Somewhere I think I found like a really old, voicemail machine. I'm not even sure. So just stuff like that. Like I need to just start looking what's in there and just making some progress on it. Some other things. I work on the second floor, so every time that I'm leaving the office, I'm trying to take with me just a handful or some folders full of things that just need to be recycled. There's a big recycling bin right by where I leave. So since I'm going up and down the stairs anyway to go into my office and to come out of it, every time I leave, I'm just trying to take, if I have a free hand, some of the recycling to just start taking it down in smaller loads. But I'm also going in the reverse because I do have some things at home that have needed to go back to my office for a long time and I just haven't moved them back. Some of them are pandemic type things. One of the things, for example, was this really good camera. It's a digital video camera that is on a tripod. And I don't use it a lot, but I do use it for some things for one of my classes. That needs to go back in the office. So it's things like that. I want to make sure that when I move this next time, everything that's supposed to be in the office actually gets there. And some of that is stuff from home. And then the other thing, I started thinking about how am I going to make it visible what's going and what's staying while I'm in the middle of kind of the messy part, which I think a lot of us get to, where we're opening up file cabinets and then there's files laying everywhere and, there's a pile of books, but then there's this other pile of books. So one of the things I just decided is that anything that's actually going to get moved, so books, some file folders, maybe some pictures, whatever, is just going to stay on the shelves. So basically I'm just getting it off the floor, but anything else on the floor is kind of fair game for me to do something with. And so this might help you kind of think about what to take. I really had to make some decisions because I know my next office will be smaller and it most likely will not have a closet where I've been very blessed to be able to put a lot of things away and out of sight. So some things I know that I want to move would be anything that relates to my current research interests. So that's books, it could be articles, it could be file folders, anything like that. And so for me, that would be anything related to faculty writing, productivity, sabbaticals, graduate student writing, time management, project management. And then my secondary interest in classical rhetoric. So anything like that is coming with me. Any publications I have, whether they're in journals or any of my past books, including all the spare copies, all of that will come. And then I also have some books I still need for teaching. Some of these are now digitized, but sometimes I like the print copy because I can find things faster when I want to work with something. So those are all coming, awards and diplomas. I may take some artwork for my kids. In 24 years, we've hung up a lot of artwork. I didn't even have kids when I started. So some of the pictures and things like that are fairly old. And then I was lucky enough to inherit a bike desk. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, somewhere along the way, our Center for Teaching Excellence had one. No one was using it. I had an office in the center for a while. And so the bike desk was in there because nobody else wanted it. And it just followed me everywhere I went. So if I have to get rid of a real desk to have the bike desk, I'm going to do it. So it's a slow mover. It has like a nice tabletop thing where I just bike on the bottom and type on the top with my laptop. I also want to say some things I'm not taking. This was tougher. Grad school files. I have a file folder for every class I've taken in a master's degree, in my PhD, but also in my postdoctoral work. I did a postdoctoral certificate at University of Michigan. So I've got like three different graduate degrees and all the papers and projects, and every folder had all the printed articles, at least when I had that kind of stuff. I also have done some National Endowment for the Humanities. I think I said that right. NEH seminars that had a ton of reading and all that. And it's just everything's in a file folder. It is labeled, so I know what it is that I'm looking at. But I just decided I can't take that. I mean, many of these folders I haven't opened ever again. I did get a kick out of looking at some of my old, graduate exams and things like that. I may keep one memento file folder of that kind of stuff, but beyond that, probably not, sadly. I also have an unopened box from the last time I moved from my graduate student office to this would have been my first faculty office 24 years ago. I don't know what's in it. It's not going. I might cut it open just to see what is in it, but it's not coming with me, whatever's in there. I haven't needed it in 24 years. It's not an emergency. I also have a ton of old computer print equipment, like old printers and cords to computers I no longer have, and a docking station that doesn't fit any of the last 5 laptops I've had. All that stuff piles up. So that is all getting back to our technology services area. And then I also still have back print journal issues. A lot of times I do get a journal in print. My favorite ones I still do because the two that I'm subscribing to now, they only come out 4 times a year. So we're really not talking a lot. And I'm just more of a print reader anyway. But all the back issues, for a long time I saved them and we use them with our graduate students for various projects. But it's just not practical to move them. There's no place to really store them. And, both of these journals you can get very easily online. So I just had to let that go, sadly. I also have 2 other categories, which I think are interesting that close out this episode. So I appreciate you staying with me. I know it's not the most exciting, but if you have to do an office move, these are some things to think about. I did decide, what can I palm off on somebody else that's not going to get moved with me, but I'm not getting rid of it. And so I have several file folders from different administrative roles that I no longer do or I will no longer be doing. And some of these things, I started thinking about who needs to get these. Some of the items need to actually go in our university archives because, for example, there's a bunch of files related to the start of our Master of Arts in Rhetoric and Writing program that was founded in 2013. And I was the one that designed the program, developed it, founded it. And it's really cool. I know what's in there. I know what all those things are. So to me, I don't want to put that in some other office. I want to make sure that that actually gets into our university archives about how that program was created. So that has to be in a special archive box and all this other stuff. But I know those things. I'm not going to keep them, but I am going to make sure they stay with the university. But then also, I started thinking about all the books in my office because, like any academic, I have a lot of books. And one of the things that I try to do at conferences, since I do have some funding for these, is I do try to buy books at conferences from the publishers, like actual physical books. I like to read them that way, but also a lot of times I will use them for assignments for students where I'll have them review a book or we'll use it as part of a class. So there's many that I really like and I would love to keep them, but I know I won't have the room for them. So for me, how I'm going to handle that is I'm going to add those to our library circulation. In most cases, we don't already have that book as part of our catalog. And so it's very easy for me to donate them to the library and they just become part of the regular circulation. And if I miss them, I can go visit them at the library. And then this is the category that I'm just calling debatable for right now. I don't know what to do with it. So one is old hard drives. My most recent hard drive with most of, I would say everything for the last 5 years, I know I will take. And I have some like thumb drives from before, but I'm really debating about like, I probably have, I don't know, 20 of those thumb drives in a little box. I don't know what's on any of them. I haven't opened it in years. I don't know. I just don't know if I'm going to take that or take that to some spot that does some electronic recycling. I also have folders full of research from publications that are already published. So that would include all my time use diaries from a book that came out in 2025, where, I had them, I printed out every single one that I collected and we did some coding on those. I also, for every article that I've ever written, I have a file folder for each one with all the back material. And this is where I'm kind of debating, and why it's in the debate category is because I do think it's really interesting about the writing process of how something is created. That's a lot of the work I'm doing now. And so now I'm trying to decide, well, maybe I wouldn't take all of it, but maybe I'd take a couple of folders for a couple of key pieces where I could open up the folder and kind of trace back how I made something. And also, if I ever had to prove that I was the author of anything, this is why I'm debating about it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those items. I may take them all. Right now, they fill a long file cabinet drawer in a like a regular standard file cabinet. So it's pretty full. That would be giving up quite a bit of space to keep that stuff, but I'm just not sure. And then the other thing is I have some items for future publications. So for example, print conference programs. This is where I get a lot of good ideas. Some print journal issues where I've taken some notes. I've got a lot of that floating around my office, including some Post-its. I may end up just making a moving box, that just says items for future publications, and I throw those items in there, and then also maybe some of the folders of my past research that shows the process, since I might write about that. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do. So why we're talking about this today is if you have to do any office moving or any office organizing, because I do know some faculty members do try to make, maybe a half-hearted attempt at cleaning out before the next academic year. This is how I'm making a decision about what's going, what's staying. There are all kinds of other categories I've not made decisions about. So for example, I found a ton of old office supplies, things that just we're never going to use, thousands of staples anymore and things like that. So I don't want to get rid of any of that. There's probably some master closet where I can put all this stuff. I don't know, but I know I need to do some finding out about that. So that's where I'm at. And I know some of you have been talking to me about office moves in our summer accountability group. So feel free, if you have some other ideas about things you want to know about, let me know. And that includes everybody listening to our Defend, Publish, and Lead podcast. We're always looking for ideas for new podcast episodes. And don't forget to join us for our upcoming webinar in July on 5 entry points to writing. I'll put a link in the show notes and it's free to join. Happy writing this week.